Howdy folks, and welcome back to not only World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, but also my last official video of 2020. Starting tomorrow, I'm on my Christmas break, although I'll probably be back tomorrow with some cyberpunk. Because, yeah, you guys all know the score by now. This so-called break that I'm taking over Christmas and the New Year pretty much only means I can just upload whatever I want, when I want, more so than I normally do. Anyway, yes, today's video. I currently have an extremely large ginger cat snoring very loudly and very happily, sort of half on my mouse hand and half on my keyboard, so this should be a bit of a challenge. Anyway, let's get down to business, shall we? Here on the Tiers of the Cruisers map, this, in the Tier 10 Japanese super battleship, the Yamato, is Most Wanted ABC. If you're wondering what that funky camo pattern is that he has, that's the high school fleet camo pattern, I believe. I know I've got it. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how I got it, but it is very, very nice. There was probably an in-game mission or something, but anyway, none of that's really important. It is a nice looking camo, though. Most Wanted is not, however, the only Yamato player in this battle, but he is the only tech tree Yamato player in this battle. He's the only person who actually played the game enough to get to Tier 10. The captain of the opposing Yamato is of course in the Arpeggio of Blue Steel, or ARP Yamato, the one that you can just buy in the premium shop. Now, I don't know how good or bad the opposing Yamato player is, because he's got less than 100 battles to his name, so his profile isn't available on the World of Warships website, but, well, that probably tells you just exactly how good you can expect somebody to be when jumping straight into World of Warships in a Tier 10 battleship. Apparently, at least from Wargaming's perspective, this is fine. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? I know what you're going to say. Well, Jingles, based on the performance of some of the people that I see in non-ARP ships in random Tier 10 battles, whoever the captain of that ARP Yamato is, he's got his work cut out if he wants to be any worse than any of the clown shoes I have to play against on a daily basis. And, you know, this... Okay, mini spoiler here for you. The guy in the other Yamato, you know, the one who has less than 100 battles played and is in a Tier 10 battleship, he is not the worst player on his team. Not by far. Now, I don't know what that says about the average skill level of the Tier 10 player base in World of Warships. It's possible that 5 members of the opposing team, who all earned less experience than the guy with less than 100 battles played, were just having bad days. It happens. But still, it does raise some interesting questions. But I just want you to bear that in mind when we do finally see him at close quarters. Just remember, despite the pants-on-head stupidity of what it is that you're going to see him doing, just remember that 5 other members of his team were worse than him today. And you know, to be completely fair, Most Wanted ABC here is going to do some dumb shit as well. But it's how he recovers from doing that dumb shit that really makes the difference. I mean, in an ideal world, he wouldn't have done the dumb shit in the first place, but, well, this is the thing that I'm finding about World of Warships. You do not have to be a great player to do well in World of Warships. You don't even have to be a good player to do well in World of Warships. All you really have to do is screw up less than whoever it is you happen to be fighting at the time. And if you do screw up, and you realise you're screwing up, don't double down on the screw up and continue trying to do something that obviously isn't working. Try something else. Change your tactics. If you're doing something that isn't working, don't keep doing what it is that isn't working. Because it isn't working. In fact, there was a prime example in the last World of Warships video that I did, where our hero of the day, in an angled dunker queue, was getting shot at with 14-inch armor-piercing shells, which he could quite comfortably take on the chin, by an enemy, I think it was a Texas. Now, at some point, after failing to do damage over and over and over, with his 14-inch AP shells ricocheting off the angled French battleship, you'd think maybe just maybe, it might be a good idea to, well, I don't know, maybe try out the high explosive. But he never did. It's called reinforcing failure. Don't do it. If it's not working, stop doing it and try something else. And this is a lesson that you can apply to life in general, probably with much more significant and beneficial results than you can to any video game. Although you'll probably see much faster and much more immediate benefits in a video game. Well, we got very philosophical there for a moment, didn't we? This is the video I'm officially leaving you with in 2020. You're welcome. No extra charge. Anyway, back to the battle. Most wanted. 30,000 damage done. Nothing spectacular. Both teams have lost one ship. Enemy team have lost a destroyer. Most wanted's team have lost a cruiser. But there's no reason for him to go charging forward and getting stuck in. The Yamato is not a brawling battleship. It's at its most dangerous in the second half of a game, or even in the first half of a game, if it gets the opportunity to work its way around onto a flank. And it looks like Most Wanted is just waiting for that to happen. I mean, he's mostly in the middle of the map here. He hasn't committed to one flank or the other yet. He's just waiting for the opportunity. And it doesn't look as if he's going to have that opportunity over here on the more easterly side of the map. But over to the western side of the map, there's a fairly strong force of enemy ships hooking around up to the north. There's also a fairly strong force of friendly ships doing their best to block them, and this is where he might end up with some useful opportunities as those enemy ships try to sweep around. So he's turned north, he's got the guns pointing over to the west, and he's looking for any opportunities to punish any broadsides that those flanking enemy ships might inadvertently... Oh, shit. Like that. Yeah. Exactly like that. Again, at this point, no reason to get any closer. And you might think to yourself, well, he showed an awful lot of broadside there himself, and you're right, he is. But I wouldn't exactly say he's screwing up here. And I say that for two reasons. Because he's far enough away from anybody who does start shooting at him. I mean, he's spotted, but the only thing targeting him is the enemy carrier, the cargo. Somebody's targeting him now, but he is far enough away that he has time, although we probably need to be going a little bit faster, to open up the angle. And also, people tend to shoot at whatever's right in front of them. And there are plenty of other ships that are right in front of them that aren't him. So I wouldn't exactly say that he's making a mistake here. He's pushing his luck a little, but it's a calculated risk. And he still hasn't really committed to one side or the other, although looking at the map, due south doesn't look too clever. So now he's starting to open up speed a little and put some more distance between himself and the enemy ships pushing up from due south. Now, things have gone significantly worse for the team than they were when we first assessed the situation earlier. The team are down 5 ships, the enemy team have only lost 2, and the enemy team have 2 of the caps and double the points. And he really hasn't made his mark felt in this game thus far. I mean, there are only 8 minutes elapsed, but he's only done 71,000 damage and he hasn't killed anything. But he has gone undetected again. And thanks to the average World of Warships player at tier 10 having the attention span of a goldfish, they've already forgotten that he's here, which means he's now got a golden opportunity to absolutely paddle the shit out of that flat broadside Petropavlovsk. And so, of course... Well, it wasn't nothing, but it wasn't the result I was expecting. Probably not the result he was expecting either. Certainly not the result he deserved. Not the result that Petropavlovsk deserved, but hey, he's still giving flat broadside. He's still in open water, he's still visible, so if at first you don't succeed, try again. And that's more like it. That's the thing with the Yamato. With these 18-inch guns, you don't have to get lucky very often. Things are, however, still looking pretty bad for the team in general, and they're not looking too shiny for Most Wanted in particular. Even with the friendly Alsace up ahead finishing off the Petropavlovsk, the enemy team have still managed to stretch their lead to 300 points. And the fact that the enemy team control both of the flanks now is not good news for the remaining ships on Most Wanted's team, and it's not good news for him either, because potentially every single surviving ship on his team, with the exception of the carrier, because why should the fun police have to suffer from the same restrictions as everybody else? But with the exception of the carrier, pretty much everybody left on Most Wanted's team is now very much in a crossfire. And this is where you start taking damage. Because it doesn't matter which way you angle your armour, you're going to be showing broadside to somebody. Like the friendly Alsatian over there, who just got himself sunk because he found himself the meat filling in a sandwich consisting of a Des Moines, a Petropavlovsk and an Amalfi. Enemy team are now nearly 350 points ahead. Most Wanted trying to get rid of that Des Moines. I mean, he's the best available target, and he's certainly not the only person shooting at him. Is this going to finish him? Because God knows the team could use the points, and of course it doesn't. But he's not the only person shooting at him. There's a Thunderer, also has that Des Moines in his sights, as both he and Most Wanted open up on him, as the Des Moines struggles to get into cover behind the island. Day late and $1 short. Thunderer gets the kill. Don't mean to sound ungrateful, but it hasn't really helped much. I mean, they're still fighting 5 against 7. They still only have one of the caps. They're still 300 points behind, and they are still all caught in a crossfire. But it's here where, despite having the odds stacked against him, Most Wanted, without doing anything spectacular on his own just yet, is simply just taking advantage of the mistakes that the enemy team are making, like the Massachusetts over there. Why is he broadsiding himself against the island? He was angled and had some cover, and instead he's chosen to come out at low speed, pinned himself up against that island, showing a flat broadside to a Yamato, a Tirpitz and a Thunderer. And if he moves forward any further, he's going to be showing a flat broadside to the friendly Massachusetts on the other side of the island. See, this is it. You often don't have to make great plays in order to do well in World of Warships. You just have to wait for everybody else to make really bad plays and kick the shit out of them when they do it. While we're on the subject, it's here where Most Wanted makes what you could argue is his own bad play. You see, he's heading away from the ships that have his broadside down there to the south, including the enemy Massachusetts, and also, amongst others, the enemy Jean Bart. Unfortunately, in order to do that, he's driving straight into a big old hornet's nest of trouble. The team are now down to 4 ships, by the way, against 6. Somewhat unsurprisingly, the Massachusetts died. But not before he managed to take the Tirpitz out with him, who presumably was steaming in at full speed in order to try to get a torpedo kill, because whether that's a good idea or not, that's just what Tirpitzes tend to do. Now, the Jean Bart down to the south does have the range to hit him, and he is showing broadside to the Jean Bart, but the Jean Bart has slightly more immediate problems. But of the 5 remaining enemy ships, yes, I know there are 6. I'm not counting the carrier, because you can't exactly take the carrier on in a gunfight unless something's gone extremely well for you. Yes, there is a Bismarck right there, who definitely does have the range to punish Most Wanted's broadside, but he's firing high explosive, don't worry. More on the Bismarck later. But what Most Wanted is doing here is voluntarily taking the Yamato, which is not a brawling battleship, alone straight into the teeth of 80% of the surviving gunships on the enemy team. And this, in all good conscience, is not something that I could ever recommend in a Yamato, because 9 times out of 10, you'll get your arse handed to you. But Most Wanted has a fighting chance of getting away with this, mostly because the enemy ships that he's facing are making far bigger mistakes than him. We'll start with the Amalfi. No cruiser should ever come out in front of a Yamato like that. Now, the Bismarck, who has just for the 3rd time fired high explosive into the broadside of a Yamato. I realise that on this 3rd shot, as Most Wanted drove into the island there, he is technically angled against the Bismarck, but here's the thing. The belt armour underneath the front turrets on the Yamato, the cheek armour if you like, is angled in so sharply that at that angle it's actually completely flat to the Bismarck's 15-inch guns. And on the other side of that cheek armour is the Yamato's citadel. 15-inch armour piercing at this range and at that angle could absolutely one-shot Most Wanted, blow his ship clean out of the water. But the Bismarck would have to load armour piercing, and he'd have to actually be shooting at Most Wanted, neither of which he's doing. And the reason he's continuing to give flat broadside to the Yamato, completely ignoring him, is because he's just seen the carrier. And there's a certain phenomenon that you'll see quite often in World of Warships when somebody in a gunship catches sight of the enemy carrier. They just seem to take all leave of their senses, ignore everything that's going on around them, and focus on the carrier. He's still firing high explosive, by the way, against a target that cannot be set on fire. Like I said, you don't have to make any particularly good plays in World of Warships in order to do well. Just wait for the enemy team to fuck up and take advantage of it. And to his credit, Most Wanted is making the most of the situation in which he has put himself. Because while it is true that he's just driven a non-brawling battleship straight into a brawl, with 80% of the surviving ships on the enemy team, he's steadfastly managed to keep that island between himself and all but the two Muppets that he's just taken a large part in disposing of. And then right on schedule, here comes Muppet number 3. His guns aren't even pointing this way. Yep, the red mist has descended, he's shooting at the carrier too, and do you remember what I said about the vulnerable citadel underneath the front turrets? Yes. Yeah. You may be thinking, well, to be fair to the guy in the ARP Yamato, Jingles, he did actually stand a chance of removing the carrier from play, and the carrier seems to know what he's doing. Yeah, that's true. But he didn't have to give flat broadside to another Yamato at point-blank range in order to do it, did he? Having said that, however, I will remind you, despite the obvious pants-on-head stupidity of what the ARP Yamato just pulled, he's still going to finish this game in a better position than 5 of his teammates. And he did sink the Parsifal. That was in fact his second kill. So I'm not sure that trading an almost full health tier 10 Yamato for a on its last legs and about to die anyway tier 8 aircraft carrier was a good trade, because it wasn't. Especially since he didn't have to die in order to do it. But rightly or wrongly, the trade was made, and so a player with less than 100 battles to his name in a tier 10 game has just finished 7th on his team by experience earned. The enemy team are still ahead by a good 150 points, but they no longer enjoy a numbers or a cap advantage. And as long as Most Wanted's team, which at the moment consists of just him and the Massachusetts, can hold on to these 2 caps and not die, they should comfortably be able to overtake the enemy team's points lead by the time the match ends in 2.5 minutes. And there's the enemy carrier. You'll notice, hopefully, that neither Most Wanted nor the Massachusetts are firing high explosive at it, as the Massachusetts chunks it for more than 50% of its remaining health, and then we wait for Most Wanted's 18-inch armor-piercing shells to arrive. And there it is. Bismarck players, take note. At this point, there's only one surviving enemy ship, the Petropavlovsk. Most Wanted has 295,000 damage done. The Karga's aircraft is still up, but, well, the thing about the Karga is it has a lot of aircraft reserves, but the aircraft don't have a lot of health. So the Massachusetts is probably fine. Right now, the Petropavlovsk needs to get a kill, and he needs to take that cap circle. He could still win, but he only has 1 minute and 25 seconds to do it. And he's behind on points. And Most Wanted is definitely going to be heading to the central cap circle at Bravo, so that even if the Petropavlovsk starts flipping the cap at Charlie, he's not going to get any benefit from it, because he still won't have any points coming in. Most Wanted there in chat giving some exceptionally good advice to the Massachusetts, some advice that a lot of players would do well to pay heed to. Don't die, we win. Or, to put it another way, don't try to win any harder than we already are. There's no reason for the Massachusetts to be chasing the Petropavlovsk. The Petropavlovsk has to, and is, going for him. And of course, he's just given his position away by shooting. Most Wanted was waiting for just that, and if you throw enough 18-inch shells at even a Russian cruiser, eventually you're going to find its citadel. And as we can see from looking at what looks like a suspiciously German post-battle results screen, by the simple but highly effective tactic of simply waiting for his opponents to display the inevitable level of pants-on-head stupidity, Most Wanted ABC was able to achieve 309,000 damage, get 4 kills, a Confederate devastating strike, and high caliber. And then, as promised, we can see the reason for this. By looking at the team results, we can see quite clearly demonstrated that the average level of play expected of anybody in a Tier 10 battle in World of Warships roughly corresponds to that of somebody with less than 100 battles played overall, who just flashes their credit card and buys themselves a Tier 10 battleship. And on that bombshell, see that? That's science, that is. That's it for today. And in fact, officially, that's it for 2020. I will be back, I think I said the 4th of January, officially, but there are going to be videos between now and then. I hope you enjoyed this one, and as always, take care, stay safe, have yourselves a great Christmas, whether you celebrate it or not, and a safe, prosperous, and happy New Year.